Thanks for joining us. This afternoon, the opposition National Democratic Congress and its caucus in Parliament is sending a fire the way of the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, for a recent report detailing severe losses made by the central bank, as we understand, in 2022. The bank, in its financial statement for last year, shows that some 60 billion cedis in losses were made, which the minority and the NDC are putting to the governor's incompetence. Speaking at a news conference, Minority Leader Akufo-Addo announced that if the Bank of Ghana governor and his deputies do not resign, they will mobilize concerned Ghanaians to occupy the central bank.
Fellow countrymen and women, let me assure you that very soon Ghanaians will be made to pay for Bank of Ghana recapitalization levy, a tax to recapitalize the Bank of Ghana. So as we speak, because the central bank has collapsed virtually. It is, however, our position that we have so recklessly, the government of Ghana has so recklessly mismanaged the central bank and brought it to its knees and cannot remain at the helm of affairs of the bank without being held accountable. Those who have led this reckless and criminal conduct unleashed economic hardship and financial distress on the suffering people of Ghana must be held accountable on this particular action. In fact, impunity of the highest order can no longer be tolerated by the suffering masses of Ghanaians. We must not allow this dangerous precedent to be set for future leaders. In this regards, we in the NDC call for the resignation, immediate resignation of the governor of the central bank and his deputies within 21 days from today. We are resolved to embark on popular action to occupy the central bank and drive out the team of inept, callous, and criminally minded mismanagers of our finances to save the Bank of Ghana. What we will do is that the march will ensure accountability. Colleagues, the march to ensure accountability will begin in 21 days if the governor of the Bank of Ghana does not do the needful and pack bag and baggages out of that sacred institution that he has unfortunately mismanaged. Dr. Ernest Addison and his deputies must go. There has to be an end to this impunity now. Fellow countrymen and women, let us arise and save the Bank of Ghana. This is the only bank we have that belongs to us directly. The central bank has a big role to play. We cannot allow the Bank of Ghana to be managed and be drawn to this level. We call on all of you that if the governor fails to act by resigning, you join us to march to occupy the Bank of Ghana in 21 days' time, to force him out and to force his deputies out, because we cannot allow this to continue. Arise for Ghana. Fellow countrymen and women, arise for Ghana. Thank you, and God bless
you. Okay, so before we do our usual tree presentation, we will take questions.
Excerpts of what transpired just a couple of minutes ago, where the Minority Leader, Dr. Akufo-Addo, addressed the media on happenings and what they believe is their position on the story. There's a need for us to give you a breakdown of what the report actually indicates about the role of the Bank of Ghana and how it suffered a haircut amounting to the loss of some 60 billion. What's accounting for that? My colleague Kweku Asante is right there at the press conference for us. We have also joining us via Zoom, Elikem Kotoko, who is the Deputy National Organiser of the National Democratic Congress. It's good to have you on with us. My colleague Kweku Asante, also Isaac Ofieje, who's a data analyst that joins us, is with us to help us break down the issues. We'll have Dr. Etiahini, who also wrote a research report on that, joining us to have a roundtable on this. Very quick one, Isaac, let's get to the breakdown. For many who are not in tune with what's happening now, let's look at why we're where we are today and what the report actually says about the role of the Bank of Ghana in where we are today. But first of all, what's the report and what's it saying about the Bank of Ghana?
Bank of Ghana's financial statement for 2022 puts out an unprecedented figure where the Bank of Ghana suffered a loss close to more than 60 billion Ghana cedis. If we do a simple exchange rate calculation, or you convert to dollars, we are talking about $6 billion US. And this is the first time the Bank of Ghana is posting such a huge loss. And it's all because Bank of Ghana, in a simple sense, was used as the shock absorber, or let's say, the scapegoats in the domestic debt exchange program.
What's the dynamics in this, and how does it really work? Because we know that the central bank is not your client or customer to, customer to banker relationship.
Exactly.
That's not what exists between, say, a client and the BOG. Not to talk even about the government and the central bank. So what's the dynamic and how does it work?
So in simple terms, the Bank of Ghana is supposed to be the lender of last resort to commercial banks and, the government as well. So usually when we start the year and government has not been able to collect revenues pretty well, they fall on Bank of Ghana to raise, monies through bonds and other instruments so that they spend. And when they collect the monies in the first quarter or the second quarter, they pay back with interest.
Right.
Now, remember that when we found ourselves in that COVID situation, Bank of Ghana came to help the government with about 10 billion Ghana cedis. It was through bonds. They borrowed government 10 billion cedis. They were expecting the government to pay back that money with interest.
Right.
There were other loans that government also took from the Bank of Ghana, where Bank of Ghana were expecting that they pay back with interest. So in
the
essence,
assurance on this was that, and we heard from the President Akufo-Addo, indicating that there will be
no haircut.
He was emphatic
exactly.
about it. It's surprising that we're having this happen. Let's also hear from Kweku Asante, who's monitoring the press briefing by the NDC, because the NDC is making a demand now, Kweku, asking for the resignation of the central bank boss. Why him? I mean, he was simply following orders, isn't it? Kweku, if you can hear me, yes.
And the way he has conducted himself, it appears that the staff not doing his job. Together with the deputies, they are demanding that he resigns immediately. In fact, if you listen to the minority, the minority people, the central plank of the argument we are making today is that the Bank of Ghana has run the economy into a deep state responsible for the current struggles of the economy. We are demanding that if he does not resign, in 21 days, they're going to lead a group of concerned Ghanaians to go to the Bank of Ghana and actually take it there and demand that he leaves office. The kind of concerns they are raising now is that they believe that Dr. Ernest Addison and his deputies have taken one or other steps. So indeed, as it has been said, the civil against the finance minister and other government, they should know that the Bank of Ghana was or is an independent institution. It does not and should not be receiving instructions from the bank, from the finance minister and the government in a manner that will run the economy down in a minute. And that is the claim we are making against the minister. We also need to look at the specifics of the issues they raised. We've gone into the financial statement of the Bank of Ghana, the kind of expenditure items that the Bank of Ghana has made. And they have concluded that it was clear that the Bank of Ghana, the government, the deputies, were clearly incompetent in the manner and way they dispersed of this money. And so they are demanding that in 21 days, they resign or they will go to the Bank of Ghana, take it there, and mass citizen action to get them out.
I see. My colleague Kweku Asante joining us from the NDC headquarters. We seem to be having a challenge hearing him, but of course the little I get is that it's part of the demands. You resign in 21 days as the BOG boss, and you save yourself of all the trouble, the picketing and what the NDC intends to do. That's why I want to bring in Elikem Kotoko's deputy national organizer for the NDC. Kweku Asante, Isaac Kofi is still with us. I will get into the breakdown for you as Dr. Etiahini will join us because he's issued a research paper that aligns with some of the findings that we're finding in there today. But Elikem, my thoughts are also about the posture of the NDC and what you seem to be doing on a daily basis, or if not a daily basis. It's become the trait of the NDC these days. You're basically asking for the resignation of everyone. Ken Oferiatta must go. Who else? You've been asking for all the ministers to go. And now it's the Bank of Ghana boss. I mean, why make all these calls and not look for an alternative in terms of getting your demands addressed?
Thank you so much, Bless. And somehow you have answered the question you asked. You said, why don't we ignore them and look for alternative solutions? And their resignation is equally part of the resignation, is part of the solution. And do not forget that this is not just the NDC speaking its mind. This is the NDC speaking on behalf of the Ghanaian, the suffering masses. And to you in the media, I am so sorry, or let me put it this way. Let us put a stop to treating this government with velvet gloves. It is one of the major reasons why we have found ourselves where we are. These are probably career criminals that have continually dissipated the public purse. And we cannot continue just treating them with velvet gloves and expect that they know what is right and leave only to the opposite.
Yeah, because you're using very serious language here. I'm just wondering, for instance, in the case of the Bank of Ghana governor, where exactly is he at fault, by the way?
Why is he not at fault when he was actually printing monies for the government, for the regime without admission? You recall when they had to take certain steps without even going through parliamentary approval. You cannot abuse your autonomy to the extent of actually breaching the constitution of Ghana. And you see, this is the same governor who actually was part of the process to clean the banking sector. Now you are cleaning the banking sector with an excess of 21 billion. And here we are, you have declared a loss of $6 billion, which is twice the equivalent of what we are seeking from the IMF. What is the justification for us to maintain such a square peg in the round hole?
Okay, but based on what you're asking for, you should look at the context, circumstance, for instance. And I recall the Deputy Finance Minister John Kumah on the platform last weekend indicate that what's happening is not new. They were all in a crisis. It's the same story if you go to all of that jurisdictions. So there's precedence to back what he's saying, isn't it?
There's no evidence to back what he's saying. Don't fall for their gimmicks. Is John Kumah telling us that this is not the first time that the Bank of Ghana has gone so insolvent in over 50 years? We've lost 60 billion. That's what we are talking about. And you have written off GOG's indebtedness of 48.8 billion. He cannot say these are normal things. You see, when we allow people who are in positions of leadership, was it not the same John Kumah who was in the House of Parliament screaming, we are not going to IMF today, we are not going tomorrow? I am sorry, that is baloney he is talking to us again. And we must not mince words when we have to address them now, because we have failed to do so. They have taken us for granted, and that is why we are where we are today.
Okay,
Ghanaians is suffering because of them.
I see.
Their decisions have failed this economy.
Okay, but here's my concern, really. Why go to the Bank of Ghana, amass people there to do what exactly? Because that's a national security installation. You're just provoking the state apparatus to respond in a manner that may not be desirable to your political party.
There is no army bigger than the people. If the people decide to all amass and get there, there's no army that will stop them. Be it a military installation or not, it is equally also a democratic right which will be exercised to its fullest. The truth of the matter is that I agree that your position as you grant this interview, you conduct this interview, is that you are an umpire. But me as a person speaking to you is speaking with so much passion, not only because I'm an NDC, but because I'm Ghanaian. And if you look at the suffering masses and what they go through daily, where we have even appointees holding dollars in their homes, these are the reasons why the city is performing poorly against the dollar. When you have funds being dissipated this way, monies that were spent on vehicle maintenance could buy 72 2023 Land Cruisers. What kind of regime is this? And I repeat, these are becoming career criminals that we must watch.
Elikam, how is the protest by the NDC going to bring back all of that money? 60 billion is not money that you can just get overnight.
You are virtually saying that we have lost that money and therefore we should fold our arms in our...
those are not my words. I'm asking you how. I'm asking you how. That's my question to you.
Well, yes, we need to, one, in the first place, we must nip this in the bud so that it doesn't continue. It is a major reason why the NDC is requesting that NS Addison resigns, because he is lording over this canker. And we cannot leave out the vice president, who is the chair of the economic advisory management team, and Ken Ofori-Atta, because these were people who were going to the IMF for the borrowings, for the printing of more monies, etc. And when they were living recklessly, The NDC started speaking about this long before ago. Many were those who thought it was just noise we were making. So you can tell now that this government is sitting on a can of worms. If they eventually get out of that place, it will be a miserable situation for Mother Ghana.
Well, these are your words. They're not backed by any evidence as of now, except to say that the only report we have is on the 60 billion. Let's be fair on that. Let's be fair on that. Yes. Yeah.
And that is what I'm speaking to. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but we can't speak about what's not there or what we haven't seen. What we've seen now is the 60 billion.
I agree.
Yes.
So if we are talking of 60 billion loss,
right,
that is a total mess. That is a mess, and that is what I'm speaking of. 55.1 billion negative equity. It means the Bank of Ghana, which was actually cleaning and trying to clean up banks, is now insolvent by itself. That is evidence. That is true. When even CBG is now considered probably more valuable than our Bank of Ghana. So we have people there who are living like Arabian kings, spending millions of dollars to buy gold watches, to spend millions in the name of maintenance. 32 million was spent on communication expenses. You and I can't tell what exactly they used that for. Look, there was serious recklessness in the administration of the Bank of Ghana. And this falls at the doorstep of the very people who are in position of leadership and this regime, which has caused that to happen.
If the president didn't listen to you when you asked for the resignation of the finance minister, what's giving you hope that something will come of this?
It's because the president is an example of a very bad leader. He will not listen to anybody and will only have his way. He lied to Ghanaians saying that after the IMF, whatever, the finance minister was going to then proceed on leave, or he was going to relieve him. Now here we are. What is happening? It is very difficult for the president to take a decision on his family members he has appointed into government, and that is a fact we must say. It is only if the person is not a relative that he is able to take a little bit of punitive measure. But if it is someone related to him, then it becomes extremely very difficult. The president has become the major conduit, and I am not surprised, neither are Ghanaians, that Martin Amidu described him as the mother serpent of corruption. This is very evident in all what we are seeing today. These are career criminals, and I repeat, they are career criminals that are dissipating.
I mean, criminality is a serious matter. You've not adduced any evidence or any report pointing out that these are criminals. So I'm taking that off the record. You agree?
If you have administrative expenditure of over 131 million.
Just deal with that for me, clearly. Criminality is a serious matter. There's no document incriminating neither the finance minister nor the Bank of Ghana governor as we speak. No indictment, no formal charges. He's not a criminal.
Well, that is my perception from all what I see. So I am telling you from my bird's eye view of what I am seeing. It looks like a grand criminal career group that is actually descending on the country's affairs and destroying it. I understand you, and I'm responsible for my words. But you see, it must be stated on authority that never in the history of Ghana has the Bank of Ghana ever registered such colossal amount of loss to the tune of $6 billion, which is twice the amount we're seeking from the IMF. Now, we have made 55.1 billion negative equity in loss, negativity in equity. That is making the Bank of Ghana insolvent. We have also borrowed recklessly. We've been printing anyhow. They denied it at a point and later on admitted that, yes, indeed, that was it. They were overlending to government as well, too. And for them to have taken the decision to write off over 48.4 billion of GOG's, that is Government of Ghana's indebtedness, that alone is criminal. So when I tell you they are criminal career people, this is what I am standing on, because it is very criminal for you to actually decide to write off the Government of Ghana's indebtedness to the tune of almost 50 billion without going through Parliament. Failure to do so is criminal. And I hope you understand now.
I get the point you're making, but it borders on the individual, and they may take you on for the comments you're making. So that's precisely why I'm raising the point, and we need to state that clearly on this platform.
I get you.
Yes,
so
precisely.
I'm stating it again clearly that the decision of the Bank of Ghana has made them all look like career criminals because deciding to even write off 48.4 billion cedis of government of Ghana's indebtedness without passing through the right procedures, such as going through parliament, is criminal.
Okay, I like the way you're using the word criminal, but in this circumstance, I'm repeating again that it's got to do with the individuals. No name has been mentioned. No one has been cited for any criminality. Are we on the same page on that?
We are on the same page. The reason why I have not mentioned any name.
Okay, Isaac, let's get to the data. I'll get to Elikem once more. But beyond this, why should we worry about the situation in which the Bank of Ghana finds itself now?
Of course, the Bank of Ghana is supposed to be the lender of last resort, and it's supposed to perform what we call the moral suasion, where it has to whip all central banks to toe a certain line in terms of monetary policy and other fiscal measures. And so if you have the central bank, which is supposed to be the lender of last resort, hosting a loss of $6 billion US dollars, which is twice the amount you're getting from the International Monetary Fund, and that should be worrying, because it's the same, bank that gave out government money. It gave non-marketable, instrument of about 32 billion, hoping to get it plus interest. Marketable, instrument, which is the bond, 16 billion, cocoa bills, cocoa board, bonds about 4.7 billion, and others totaling close to 61 billion Ghana cedis. All of these monies have been rendered as a loss, and Bank of Ghana may not get it back in any form.
I want us to do this exercise, carry out an exercise by telling the viewer how this money and its absence, by extension, has a possible effect on the economy, i.e. where we find ourselves today.
Yeah, of course. The Bank of Ghana must come in when, commercial banks face liquidity situations. Because this moment, because of the DDEP, some of the banks have been rendered somewhat insolvent, where they have to turn in, some recapitalization, requests for the Bank of Ghana to come in to save them. So in this situation, you're asking the Bank of Ghana to save itself, save government, save commercial banks, and save individuals who gave monies to government in the form of bonds. Now, as a consumer or as a business person out there, mind you, Bank of Ghana is supposed to lend to commercial banks who will then lend to you. So if the central bank finds itself in a very tight situation, it simply tells you that when the commercial banks find themselves in a certain situation, they can't come in to help them for you, the private person, to also get cheaper loans. They will not be able to perform their monetary policy, responsibility, where they have to regulate interest rate and all of those things. Mind you, if Bank of Ghana is in a very sound situation, that's when they can perform very good monetary policies, where it will affect businesses. You can go to the bank. And
so we agree, and we all agree that they found themselves in this space. How is it, and let's get to the individuals, that's where I'm interested in, if not by names, by portfolio. How is the management of the central bank involved in what's going on here? Are there any expenditure lines and items that are likely, jeopardizing the situation and making it worse off? If not for this haircut.
Well, exactly. The central bank, when they were giving out the monies to government, I'm not sure they thought of it that there was going to be a time that there's going to be what we call domestic debt exchange program, where they had to write off some of the loans they gave to government. Like any bank would give loans to an individual, that is the same way the Bank of Ghana also gave loans to the government, hoping that governments could come back and pay later on. And there's nothing wrong with the central bank helping, the government in terms of their expenditure, funding their expenditure and all of those things. But if you do it beyond a certain level, then it becomes problematic. Because Bank of Ghana was expecting that this money that they've given to you, you pay it back so that they use it for other things. Yeah. And because we find ourselves in a situation where we did not have foreign liquidity, we needed to go for an IMF program. And one of the conditions was that if you find yourself in a debt situation which is unsustainable, then you have to restructure your debt, whether at the domestic level or at the external level, before we give you the liquidity support. Bank of Ghana did not think about restructuring of debt when they gave out 10 billion cedis to government to fund COVID expenditure. they did not think about restructuring when they gave extra 6 billion cedis to government to perform other responsibilities. They never thought of all of those things.
There's one research paper pending, and that's where I'll get back to you, Isaac, on about what the findings are and possibly what we are looking at in terms of the academic research or probing to all of this. But let me wrap up with you, Elikem, the way forward. And you are a political party, don't forget the NDC. You must, and by extension, that's what you claim you stand for as a political party, contribute to national development. The question is, what alternatives are you suggesting as a political party to resolve this crisis?
See, it is just that leadership has failed to stay true to what power is. This regime has failed to be very transparent, to be accountable to the people of Ghana. Each time we ask questions, you know their usual answers. Either go to court, or do this, or do that, in a very arrogant posturing. And from the president down to even the cleaner in the regime, there has always been a certain posturing of arrogance. It is what has brought us where we are today. Then the unfortunate tolerance, too much tolerance of these by many. And that is why I have said to you, and I'm pleading with you in the media also, that we have treated this regime with too much velvet gloves, which makes them feel very pampered and continue to do anything and everything they wish, and that we will talk about it, and after that, the matter will die down. It is why one of the first steps we are asking is for the governor to step down in 21 days. If not, if he doesn't do that, then the second step will be to make sure that we mount the pressure that will be required for all Ghanaians who are concerned and worried, who are suffering while these people are enjoying and plunging us into the mess, to all mass up at the premise of the central bank. Then other actions will follow. This, for the last time, will actually be done unabated.
If the NDC believes that the economy is worse off, that's playing to your political advantage. Why not wait till next year for an election? At least you could demonstrate that indeed you have the capable hands to handle the economy.
The NDC is the only alternative. However, we are not an opportunist political party who would actually sacrifice the health, the well-being of the Ghanaian and say that things are hard, times are tough, people are dying, people's bonds are not being paid, the economy is struggling, and therefore we should jubilate. No, the very Ghanaians who will even vote for us will be suffering. What if they cannot live up to 2024? So we are speaking today, not only because we are NDC, but because we are Ghanaians. So we are Ghanaians wearing the NDC cloth. So as I speak with you, I speak to you first because the first reason for granting me this interview is because I'm a Ghanaian. Then the second is because I belong to a party that is opposition. And so we should always have that in mind, that every person who belongs to a political party is equally also a Ghanaian. And I speak to you as a Ghanaian who is passionate. I speak as a youth who feels very disappointed that the numerous people out there are suffering, whilst a few are enjoying and are conducting themselves even in criminalities. It is the more reason why I repeat, these are career criminals.
Okay, I wonder who you're referring to. I don't know about that. So we'll have that conversation later on. Thank you, Elikem, for spending some time with us. A criminal day, as Elikem is calling it. But for us, we're just looking at the figures.
Yeah.
That's what we're concerned about. So let's wrap up with this research, which is also out, which appears to be in line with what it is that some other reports are pointing out at the Bank of Ghana. Who are the authors of this research, and what are some of the possible findings?
So this research paper was put together by Dr. Richmond Etuahine and his colleague Frimpong. And Mr. Frimpong, they actually point out that the Bank of Ghana was more or less used as the shock absorber in the just ended domestic debt exchange program, in fact, the first round. So this is a situation, whereas all other creditors who participated in this DDEP probably took haircuts on interest payments where they had their interest extended or reduced. Bank of Ghana was the only entity that suffered haircuts on principal and on interest. So in essence, Bank of Ghana took haircuts on the principal and interest as well. So that is the reason why Bank of Ghana posted this huge or humongous loss of about 61 billion Ghana cedis that we're talking about. So the research paper was very clear that because of this huge deficit or loss, Bank of Ghana is going to face serious challenges in performing some of its monetary policy duties, and then also, Bank of Ghana will not be as credible as it used to be based on the findings of the research paper and the fact that the lender of last resort looks like it needs recapitalization.
Okay, here's the point.
Even more than its commercial
Is the Bank of Ghana out of option, or options, if I should use that word, in terms of what they could do, how they can't avert it now, they can just manage the risk associated with it. What are the possible scenarios that we can look at in terms of the cushion that the central bank may want to follow?
Well, funny enough, they already have a helper, which is the IMF, which has already come in to promise a support of $3 billion, which is coming in tranches. Yeah. So just like the way commercial banks will fall on, Bank of Ghana also is more or less falling on the IMF and the World Bank as the lender of last resort. So they have an option. But the only string attached is that Bank of Ghana will now have to perform what we call the 0% financing. The liberty with which they used to sponsor or fund government expenditure in 2021, 2022, they are not going to have that same freedom again. They are going to be, supervised strictly by the World Bank and then the IMF. But if you ask me if they have options, the only option they have on the table right now is the IMF and the World Bank's, support.
Isaac Akuffo, data analyst here at Journeys. There's some more that we need to look at, Isaac, because this afternoon as well, we understand that there's a high-level ECOWAS mission which is headed to Niger today as the community's effort at restoring democracy in the country continues. ECOWAS gave the military junta in Niger up to last Sunday to relinquish power and to restore the former president, failing which there will be some action in terms of deployment of military troops to the area. The deadline has since elapsed and no action has been announced so far. Speaking last night on PM Express, the ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Ambassador Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa, announced that the high-powered delegation will be in Niger today to continue efforts at convincing the military regime to relinquish power.
ECOWAS has an array of tools in its arsenal as far as our fight to restore constitutional order in the region goes. So we have to exhaust all these, tools in our toolbox. And the first of them, like we said, has been the shuttle diplomacy that has been going on. We have deployed missions there. We have not actually had any joy yet, even as the deadline for the release of President Bazoum and the restoration of constitutional order, were passing. We were still insisting on the mediation angle of it. Tomorrow, I am joining a team from the UN, from ECOWAS, and then from the African Union to go back to Niger, to go and continue with this diplomatic work that we are doing. In the meantime, the chiefs of defense staff met in a 2-day planning meeting to develop a comprehensive, something like an intervention roadmap, for the ECOWAS intervention in Mali. So that also has been concluded. So what is next? And I think that was your question. On Thursday, the heads of state are going to meet, and they are going to be accompanied by their chiefs of defense staff during the ECOWAS summit.
ECOWAS is, however, not ruling out a full-blown military intervention in Niger to force the military regime out of power. According to ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Ambassador Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa, the sanctions imposed on Niger is working so far.
We are going to review the diplomatic efforts that have been deployed up till this point to see where we need to strengthen our approach. And as I said, we had an array of tools. In the meantime, sanctions have started biting in the country. Sanctions were also imposed on the country. There were cuts in the electricity. Parts of Niger today is in the dark. Prices have shot up overnight, and there is a lot of pressure on the junta, to yield, to do something. So we are using all these tools. And then on Thursday, we are going to review, have these efforts worked so far? If they have not, what next? And what is going to be done will be an analysis. The chiefs of defense staff will give their report about the concept of operation for the military intervention in the country, which has never been off the table. But we have said it is going to be the option of last resort. Okay, so they will give that. The member states will confirm their contribution of elements, whether contingency-owned equipment, how many troops, and other things, to try and then finalize that, also, and then also to review all other options, and also to decide on if we are going to intervene militarily, when and where. All those issues are going to be the prerogative of the authority of heads of state and government. And like you said earlier on, the deadline passed, and many people thought, oh, the deadline has passed, so ECOWAS must be, intervening right now. That is not how the military operates, because we have to maintain that strategic, ambiguity, just to keep people guessing as to when, where, and how, if there is going to be a military option, how it is going to be applied.
We know that in the last few hours, as is indicated, a lot of reactions have been coming up, and the African Regional Organization of International Trade Union, Confederation, has issued a statement asking the regional body ECOWAS and the AU to hasten slowly with their plans to use force to push out the military regime in Niger. Let's get to it in terms of what it is that the content says about this very military deployment. It indicates, first of all, that the Africa Regional Organization of the International Trade Union Confederation, the ITUC Africa, is condemning and condemned earlier the unconstitutional and undemocratic change of power in Niger, which occurred on the 26th of July when the Presidential Guard of the country declared martial law after deposing the president. We reiterate our commitment to constitutionality and democracy. However, we are worried by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, ultimatum to threat and the threat to intervene militarily to restore the deposed president to power. We wish to state categorically and unambiguously that the African workers reject a military option in solving the political impasse in Niger. We call on ECOWAS, rather than mobilizing for military development, to engineer and engage in a robust and swift diplomatic and political move to resolve the crisis. And the statement continues to indicate that they are observing the security situation in the Sahel region in the past years and will definitely coming. So what do Ghanaians think about the potential ECOWAS military intervention in Niger, which includes Ghanaian soldiers? Because the defense minister confirmed that Ghana is willing to join you. Has been speaking to some of your counterparts, if I may say, Ghanaians here on the streets of Accra.
Really be some backlash, Some of the threats, have been directed to some of the ECOWAS member countries from these French countries, So we have to be very, very careful. And it's a very easy thing for them to take advantage of the situation and start looking towards Nigeria, Ghana, and other countries.
The steps that ECOWAS is taking is truly misplaced. It is not something that Africa or Africans should support. I'm not in support of, this ECOWAS intrusion on the land. In as much as Nigeria is connected to Ghana, definitely what Yeah, so what happens to Nigeria, what happens to ECOWAS basically affects Ghanaians.
So if you want to send military personnel or troops to go and then counter their decision, then it implies that Ghana also supports the how the country is being governed. And you know how Ghana, other countries also see Ghana that our president is not governing as well. You have fire in your backyard, put it off before you come to us. So I think we should act professionally, try to have bilateral talks, professional talks, diplomatic talks.
We also need to do our homework well, because what is happening, if you listen to the explanation being given by the military junta, you realize that they have a point. Ghana can be affected by going to fight against the leader or the military people who are in charge of the affair for now. They could be affected because it's some people's country. That is what they have chosen to go. Once they have gotten supporters over there, people are supporting what they have done. No, they can victimize. We have people over there, Ghanaians are there. So if they go, they should not forget that we have Ghanaians over there. So if Ghanaians are there and they're going to fight, probably killing innocent people over there, they can revenge by going around looking for those West African countries that are going to fight against them, look for their citizens. Also, so in one way or the other, we are being affected indirectly.
The ECOWAS Union or ECOWAS states should find a way to actually find or make peace amicably rather than sending soldiers. And we know the Russians are also supporting the Nigerians. And then if that will be the case, we can't win this case. So let's take our time and solve this thing before sending our troops over there.
No. From my view, Diana should not to support, because what is happening in Niger is also happening here. So if we are not care what is happening in Niger, it will come to Ghana.
People, they are also facing like the economy very tough. Then that's why they overthrown their president. So Ghana, we are facing the same thing. If you are working, things are not going well for you. So we also need to throw our president away. So there's no need Ghanaian armies to go and support the Niger people, their ECOWAS. If Ghana support, that means the same thing needs to happen in Ghana here.
Streets of Accra. Joining us now is Ranking Member of the Defense and Interior Committee, James A Gaga. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us. You must be concerned, definitely, on the Interior Committee, knowing that the possibility of what's happening outside could affect the stability here within. What's the recommendation, first of all, on how our president should deal with this matter, and also, going forward, what ECOWAS should be doing?
Would say that President Akufo-Addo, who happens to be a key member of the ECOWAS, heads of state and authority, should be very measured. Look, ECOWAS was very, very quick in issuing out an ultimatum to the military junta in Niger to reinstate the deposed president or face military action. When the ultimatum came, clearly ECOWAS had not exhausted diplomatic efforts aimed at dealing with the crisis, which unfolded in that country. And now, by issuing ultimatums, I think ECOWAS has compromised itself in terms of negotiating an amicable settlement to the impasse. Given that, previously, ECOWAS member states went through the same trajectory in terms of military takeovers, and yet ECOWAS did not adopt that kind of posturing. Guinea is a typical example. What happened in Guinea when the military in that country took over power from a civilian government? Burkina Faso, we saw 2 coups in a row. The first one overthrew a civilian government. The second coup overthrew another military leader. ECOWAS was quiet. What
you finish?
Happened? Chad. There are so many examples, and you wonder why ECOWAS has suddenly decided to assume the posturing that we have seen over the past few days. I think that it's important that ECOWAS should begin to ask itself what the underlying causes of the military takeover.
So what will you then suggest in terms of the way forward and
able to establish line causes are, they can begin to attempt to solve those underlying causes. But if they sit back and allow the militaries within the sub-region to overthrow resolve. First of all, what is the authority?
So when it comes to the issue about the deployment, we are Honorable James Aga, it appears we're having some challenge with you there in terms of hearing you. Are you with us? Okay, it appears we're having some challenges reaching Honorable James A Gaga, but the point is about the deployment that we're seeing now, knowing that, of course, the diplomatic mission officially is in Niger. We're also reading of this report that's also coming through that some solidarity deployment is being done by the military regimes in Mali and the others. We're yet to confirm that. But let's go back to Honorable James A Gaga, who's also the ranking on the Interior and Defense Committee of Parliament. And you were just talking there about the deployment that's about to be made. I was speaking to the Defense Minister somewhere about a week ago, indicating to us that Ghana is ready to contribute troops. You say that would not be a good move?
First of all, the Minister for Defense must understand that the Parliament of Ghana has not granted any approval for Ghana to contribute troops to an ECOWAS intervention force in Mali. They must understand that for Ghana to contribute troops, for Ghana to partake in any military intervention in the Republic of Niger, the people of this country, represented by its parliament, must authorize such a deployment. As far as I know, the Minister for Defense has not tabled any ECOWAS resolution warranting Ghana to partake in contributing troops to intervene militarily.
Not support, is that the point, that you would not support, parliamentarily speaking, you will not support any move to deploy the troops? Honorable James A Gaga, I'm just asking if you would not support.
Insofar as there is no UN, I will not support the move. I will not. And the reasons are not far-fetched. First of all, as we speak, there is no legal basis in the Republic of Niger. There is no legal basis. In international law, I mean, the only body that can authorize
very salient points James A Gaga was making there.
Honorable
James A Gaga, we seem to be losing you intermittently, but just take that point for us again. The reason for which you're saying you would not support any military action or Ghana contributing its troops.
Yes. The point I'm making is that at the moment, we don't even have any legal basis mandated under international law to authorize the use of force. To authorize the use of is the UN Security Council.
We'll get back to James A Gaga because he's making a very serious point about the need for UN backing for us to contribute to our troops. As to what the legal position is on that, but we need to argue it out. He will join us back again to explore that. But even as we speak, there's some tracking that we're doing about the situation when it comes to the no-fly zone sanctions that were imposed by ECOWAS. because that's biting hard, and yet we're spotting some indication that gives us a sense of hope that the diplomatic mission from ECOWAS is indeed in Niger as we speak. Isaac Ofeje is still tracking that for us. So Isaac, let's get to the explanation of what we're about to see on our screens now. We're tracking the flights, correct?
Yeah. So the airspace was closed on Sunday, where no airline or no plane was supposed to land in Niger from any part of the other countries. But since Sunday, we've been tracking, airlines, moving to Niamey, and we can count about 3 of them. One was yesterday. It moved from Burkina Faso. It was a transport plane that moved from Burkina Faso, which is Ouagadougou, to Niamey. And then just about 30 minutes ago, or 15 minutes ago, if my estimation is correct, a plane just landed in Niamey. It was from Burkina Faso, rather from Niger to Burkina Faso. And this plane belonged to the Niger Air Force. And currently, as we speak, there is another plane from Turkey, which is moving from Turkey to Burkina, to Niamey. So there you can see.
So what we see now, because there are so many flights on the screens, just explain to us what we're seeing now on the screen.
Refresh the map to see the current, flight that's moving from Istanbul to Niamey. So what we can say is that we can count, or we can confirm that since the airspace was closed on Sunday, 3 flights have actually landed, 2 in Niamey and 1 from Niamey to Ouagadougou. So although the airspace has been closed, you can see some, transport movement between Burkina Faso and Niger, and then also between Niger and then Turkey. And what is happening is that the neighboring countries that could have used Niger as a short route to travel will now have to redirect most of their flights. So for instance, Nigeria can no longer fly over Niger. They have to use another route, whether to use Ghana or another place. And then also we have airlines complaining that because of this, travel cost and time have all been increased, because Niger usually was supposed to be, a shorter route to either Nigeria or to any other place. But because of the closure, they are redirecting their flight. And most of the flights are being redirected to Mali. That's why on the map you see a lot of planes moving either to Mali or out of Mali. But you do not see any plane coming to Niger. But per what I'm tracking right now, there's a plane from Istanbul heading towards Niamey. And this belongs to the Turkish airline, so it's moving from Istanbul to Niamey.
Okay, so we need to explain that this is a live situation that we're seeing right now. And apologies, we are not able to bring you all of the details now, but that's just to give you a sense of what's happening. Quite an isolated area now, if you look at it in terms of what's happening. So most of the flights appear to be adhering with the no-fly zone sanction that was imposed by ECOWAS. A meeting is underway. Will be happening actually on Thursday, where the heads of state will decide on what happens next. But I understand the Honourable James A Gaga is back on Zoom with us. Apologies, Honourable, because we lost you earlier when you were making the point about the Parliament of Ghana not backing the military deployment of our Ghanaian armed forces joining the ECOMOG or ECOWAS troops, if we may term them as such. What's your reasoning for that?
Point that at the moment, there is no legal basis for what the ECOWAS authority of heads of state and government want to do. The ultimatum to reinstate or Bazoum or face military action has no legal basis. And I made the point that, look, the only authority or body authorized to give its consent or approval for the use of force is the UN Security Council. But as we speak, I am not aware of any such decision by the UN Security Council to authorize the use of force against the Republic of Niger, because internally there has been a coup which toppled a civilian elected administration. And so there be no such UN Security Council resolution backing the ECOWAS intended military intervention, I would say that under international law, any such intervention would be an illegal intervention, and for which reason Ghana should not partake in the intended illegal action that the authority of heads of state of ECOWAS want to embark upon. That is the first leg of my argument. I earlier on made the point that Ghana's parliament must be consulted so far as Ghana's own commitment to the cause of the ECOWAS intended military intervention in Niger is concerned. So far, Ghana's parliament has not been consulted. And I'm saying this on authority. The approval of parliament has not been sought for Ghana to deploy boots in the Republic of Niger. And so I think the Minister for Defense must be reminded here that he has an obligation to seek parliamentary approval before Ghana can participate in any military intervention on foreign soil. So these are two reasons, compelling reasons why I would not even support Ghana's participation in any military intervention in Niger in the first place. But aside these two points I have registered with you, for all intents and purposes, any military intervention in Niger is going to be disastrous because you have other countries in the sub-region which do not back the decision taken by ECOWAS. Notable examples are Mali, Burkina Faso, and even some non-ECOWAS members like Algeria, which borders Niger. And so the question to ask is, in the event of military intervention, can the Republic of Niger solicit the support of those countries that don't back intervention in Niamey or Niger? And if they do, why? We're going to have a West African World War. You have countries that align themselves to Niger, pitching themselves in battle against a Nigerian-led bloc that are in support of military intervention in Niger. Can we contain the bloodshed? And what would be the end game? What would be the end game? Look at the sheer size of Niger. You want to send an intervention force in Niger to reinstate a deposed president, and for how long can that intervention force be in Niger to enforce law and order? For how long? We've seen examples in Mali when the United States intervened and elsewhere. What was the outcome?
Okay, but here's the case.
What was the outcome of U.S. military?
Yeah, I get the point you're raising, but here's the point. Okay, we seem to be having a challenge there with Honorable James A Gaga, who appears to be explaining what's happening. And Honorable, just one more time, let's try if we'll see if the lines will be stable. I was just about pointing you to the minutes on the last summit that was held. President Akufo-Addo was there, according to the records. He was present. He endorsed the position. So that's our position by extension as a country. We seem to be having a challenge there. Isaac, let's wrap up. So you have any further details to share with us?
Yeah, so I think we have details on the plane that's, just took off from Istanbul to Niger. So it was estimated that this plane will set off from Istanbul at 12 p.m. But because of this delay, it took off somewhere around 2 o'clock. And we're estimating that by 5, it should be in Niamey or in Niger. But what we do not understand is that the fact that most of the scheduled flights have been cancelled, but this particular, plane from Turkey, which is a bit close to Russia, is being allowed to come to Niger. So we've seen 3 right now, one from Istanbul and one that just flew from Niamey to Burkina Faso, which belong to an air force, the Niger, Air Force. And then there was another one that flew from Burkina Faso, a transport plane, yesterday to Niger. So we do not quite get what is going on because this is supposed to be a no-flight zone. The airspace has been closed. Nigeria is not being allowed to use the airspace. They are redirecting most of their flights through Chad and then Burkina Faso and other places. But we do not understand why this particular airline from Turkey, which is an Airbus, is being allowed to fly from Istanbul.
Well, interesting questions there. Something that we'll need to explore some more, but we know that meeting will happen on Thursday. Expect Joy News to bring you some updates. We're taking a break here on The Pulse. When we get back, we'll get you some updates on the embattled Cecilia Dapat and what has become of the case. Please stay. And you're welcome back. Father of Patience Boche, one of the accused persons standing trial in the case of alleged stolen money belonging to the former sanitation minister, has been discharged by the court. This was after the prosecution amended its charge sheets in court Tuesday. The amended charge sheet actually now has 7 accused persons, including the 2 lactating mothers that we're hearing of. Richard Kojinyako was in court and has come through with this report.
So 5 accused persons were initially put before the court, but the prosecution indicated that they are amending the charge sheet, and so they amended the charge sheet to include others they have arrested. They, however, did not include the father of Patience Boche, and so the father goes free for now. Now the prosecution's case is that they need more time to conduct their investigations, because after the last agenda they have been able to arrest 2 more persons. They retrieved 2 Honda Acura vehicles valued at 600,000 Ghana cedis. They have also located 4 houses, and so on the basis of that, a lot needs to be uncovered, and so the court should grant them more time. But the arguments for the accused persons is that they have been in police custody for 1 month already, and some of them are lactating mothers. 2 of them, in fact, they are lactating mothers where the children have to be brought to the police custody for them to be given breast milk, and so it doesn't augur well for the development of the child. It denies the children of bonding with their mother, and so based on that, the court should grant them some bail. And the court, based on that, decided to grant bail to the 2 lactating mothers and urged other accused persons to make a formal application for the bail. So the case has been adjourned to the 22nd of August 2023. Lawyer for 3 of the accused persons has been explaining what happened in court.
So their pleas have not been taken, and prosecution opposed the bail application, given the reason that they have not finished with their investigation and they are still ongoing, carrying on investigations. So in respect, however, the court granted A2 and A5 because they are lactating mothers. The court admitted them to bail to the sum of 1 million Ghana cedis with 3 sureties to be justified. And the court further ordered that we filed a formal application for bail to be moved on the 22nd. I'm representing A5, A6 and A7.
From the courts, my name is Richard Akufo for Joy News.
On board. On board.
And 4 persons have been arrested for allegedly engaging in examination malpractice. At the start of the BEC examination on Monday, the arrest has been attributed to stringent measures implemented in this year's exams to check the challenge. Head of Public Affairs at the WAEC, John Kapi, confirmed the arrest to Joy News. According to him, the arrest was made in the Ashanti region, Tema and Central regions.
Yes, we've received a few reports from the Ashanti region where one individual was picked up where he was trying to approach the examination hall with some prepared material for the candidates. We've also picked somebody up from Tema West, that's Tema Central actually, where the lady had a tablet that had some information that she intended passing on to the candidates. In the Central region, Dunkonofin, to be specific, we've picked up 2 people who were answering the questions in the middle of the paper that they intended sending into the candidates who were writing the exam here. Well, these are criminal cases according to our rules and regulations governing the conduct of the examination. And anybody who breaches any of these rules, what we do is we simply report you to the law enforcement agencies. They apply our rules, and then they are charged when they are sent to court.
The council is also deploying drones to deliver exam papers, since some had to reach communities. PC candidates in the sector from Plains, for instance, got their papers by drone services. John Kapi is the head of PR at WAEC. He tells us more about the rationale behind this new strategy. You were speaking to Benis Abubedu earlier on News Desk.
Received information that the road between Atebubu and the Afram Plains was not more trouble because, of course, we had the rainy season, and there was no way that we could have gone there. The canoes that were being used there were, nothing to write home about. So we chose to use the drone services, and that has worked for us. Well, so far we have just one school, Anyinofi, SDA, GHS. That is where we are using the drone to transport the question papers to. We have intensified our monitoring system across all the centers in the country. We are using the National Investigative Bureau. We have also some police personnel who are helping. We have the WAEC officers who are deployed to every part of the country. And then we also have some specially recruited personnel that the council has recruited, and these are also being used across the country. We have reports of some, let me call them flashpoints or malpractice prone areas. And in those areas, we have intensified our monitoring to ensure that sanity prevails at all the centers where the examinations are being taken.
Well, let's now bring you to Accra, where my colleague Jacqueline Yabua has been in one of the centers here in Accra this morning, this report.
Today is day 2 of the Basic Education Certificate Examination, and currently I am at St. Paul's Lutheran School, where we have about 10 schools in here, and the candidates here are 148. So I'm here to talk to the students as to how their first paper for the day went. So how was the paper for you today?
It was great.
No issues?
No.
What is that one question that you were expecting that actually came?
The reproductive system. I was quite, how do we say it? I was expecting that question. I learned it throughout this, the time we were supposed to write the examination. I read and read because I saw that it was confirmed. So when I saw it, I was so happy, but I couldn't show it.
Okay. All right, what about you?
I was expecting density.
Okay.
But it didn't come.
It didn't come, but earlier you said everything was okay for you.
Because I knew the rest, so everything was great.
Okay, so I'm still here at Lutheran School with students from Agri Memorial, and with me I also have the head boy of the school. How was the paper, your third paper? How was it?
It was very good. I experienced a lot today.
Share some with that. What did you experience?
Like, the papers were somehow difficult, somehow easy. Yeah.
Oh, it was great. It was great. See.
It was great. Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. You didn't encounter any issues?
For me, the questions are too cheap for me. See that thing.
The questions are too cheap?
Oh, too cheap.
Okay. So how well are you preparing for the next paper?
I'm really prepared. I'm prepared. I've been learning the Airline, so I'm ready for the next one.
It was fantabulous.
Fantabulous. Okay. The questions that you were expecting, did they come through?
Simple. Like what my science teacher taught me this morning, almost half of the questions came. So I give thanks to him.
You don't give thanks to God, but you give thanks to your science teacher.
God is first, but my teacher is second. You understand it, right?
It was very normal and it was very good, just like normal exams.
It wasn't difficult. What paper was it?
Integrated science.
Okay. And what about you? How was it?
Same. It was like normal examination.
Right. So the first day when you started, was there any fears and all that?
Yeah, there was.
But how did you overcome it?
When I saw the way the questions were, and I was like, oh, this is like normal examination, so it's okay.
It was fine.
Fine?
Yes.
And did you encounter any issues and all that?
No.
No?
Yes.
How well are you preparing for the next paper?
I'm praying that I'll go and learn what I have to learn and what I will expect to come. That's what I'll be learning.
Well, it went good though.
Many issues. The way you said though, it means there's something there.
Well, before we started the papers, the invigilators were very straight, like, yeah, we were very nervous, but as time goes on, they told us we should come, we will be able to write it. So by the grace of Allah, we were able to face any challenge over there.
It was very good, but unfortunately, it was good, bad, but it was nice.
Good, bad. Give us more details. What was bad?
For the question one, it was compulsory. But for the other ones, you have to choose only 4. But for the 4, I wasn't able to do all, so I answered only 2. So I would say it wasn't good for me.
It is very interesting. And I hope that by the end of the paper, I'll get a good result. And the paper, if not have a confidence or you not have something, or you have to learn before you can make it. If you are waiting for God to make, like maybe God to help you, God help those who help themselves.
It was good because I myself here and what I learned didn't come. And when I went there,
what did you learn that didn't come?
I learned like the digestive system and how you labor it. That's what I learned. And my hope was that it would come, but it didn't come. So to me, the exams wasn't good.
Today it wasn't all that good for you. All right. And what school do you want to go to?
Laboni.
Laboni. What about you?
Laboni.
What about you?
Oh, me, I'll go to Armed Forces.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, I wish you all the best. We just heard from the students who are writing their BEC here at St. Paul's Lutheran Schools, where we have about 10 schools here, and we could hear from the students how today's paper was. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
Well, let's take you to the Ashanti region now, where Emmanuel Bright Kwaku reports a female candidate was prevented by her husband from sitting the examination. Interesting developments. It's however unclear the reason for the husband's decision, as officials of the Ghana National Association in the Ashanti region are taking up that charge to investigate the matter. Let's get more from Emmanuel Bright Kwaku, who's joining us with more. Emmanuel, what more do we know about this development?
All right, so Blessed, during my monitoring this morning, I went to some of the centers in Yasokore Mampong and then Oforiko municipalities where I engaged some of the supervisors over there. When I went, fortunately, I met some officials from the Ghana National Association of Teachers going around to monitor how the exam is being conducted at the various centers. So I tried engaging one of them. So when I engaged one of them, he told me that so far with the observations, especially with absenteeism, they are recording quite a number of them at some of the centers. And so they inquired from the supervisors over there what could be the reason for this actual case. And then it emerged that one of the students was actually prevented from writing the exam by the husband. The husband prevented him from writing the exam. That is why she couldn't sit for the exam. And according to them, it happened yesterday. So I think yesterday the person couldn't write, and then today too, when they went, the person couldn't sit for this particular examination. So that is what he actually told me when I engaged him. But he has assured that they are going to investigate because they don't even know the whereabouts. He actually inquired from the teachers of this particular student to know where the student is. So they couldn't ascertain where the teacher couldn't ascertain, and then neither them. But they are assuring us that once they are done with the exam, according to him, once they are done with the exam or during the course of the week, they will try and find this person and then engage the parents on why they also agreed not to allow the student sit for this particular BEC. So that is what I can report to our Blessed.
Well, Iman, also, how about the other examinations that will be routine? Because we know they're not done. Is there any indication that this young lady will be back to the examination hall?
For now, according to the official I spoke with, he says they would have to go and then do their digging up to find out where this particular person is. They can't really ascertain where the person is actually, but they will do further probing and then give us whatever details we need from this particular student. So that is what has actually been happening. I also visited some places where absenteeism is also becoming a trend in most of the centers. You go to a particular center where some 5 students are not present. And then, according to the supervisors over there, they tell us that some of the students, when they ask their teachers, they tell them they've flown out of the country or they've traveled, if I should put it, they've traveled. So this is the reasons why, some of the reasons why some of the students are not sitting for the exam. So it's because they are not traveling. But with their girls, some of them are just thinking it's because they are pregnant, but they are not certain yet. But the only reason they gave was that some of them have traveled.
Emmanuel Bright-Kweku, thank you for spending some time with us to update us on what the situation is in the Ashanti region. And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We have a bit of an update on the situation in the Republic of Niger for you, because earlier we were indicating that there's a deployment from ECOWAS, a mission to actually tackle the challenges in the country, but there's a correspondence that we have excerpts of indicating that there's a response coming through from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of the Republic of Niger, which is indicating that it presents its compliments to the resident representative of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS in Niamey. It goes ahead to say that it has the honor to acknowledge the receipt of a correspondence which is dated August 6, 2023, relating to the arrival in Niamey on August 8, which is today, by a special flight chartered by the United Nations of a joint mission from ECOWAS and the United Nations and the African Union. The ministry points out that following the sanctions decreed by ECOWAS itself at the end of the Conference of Heads of States and Governments, which was on the 30th of July 2023, Niger's land and air borders with member states are closed, and the organization of such a mission by special flight requires some special considerations by the Niger authorities, including a special exemption, which is not invoked in this note from the resident representation. So while reiterating their readiness to integrate and to engage in discussions with delegations on or emissaries concerning the situation in Niger, as indicated to the mission led by the former president of Nigeria, that's General Retired Abdusalami Abubakar, the current context of anger and revolt as a result of the sanctions imposed by ECOWAS does not make it possible for Niger to host the aforementioned mission. So that's the latest that we're getting from ECOWAS, the Republic of Niger, on this very meeting. We'll bring you updates in our subsequent bulletins and also give you some updates on some other programmings on both radio, online and television. And now let's talk about the New Patriotic Party, because the party is embarking on its journey to select its flag bearer for the 2024 general elections. And one of the 10 candidates competing in that Special Delegates Congress, Joe Gate, is confident of securing a spot in the final 5, paving way for the main Delegates Congress this year. A seasoned legislator and former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Joe Gate comes to the race with significant contributions to national development and is confident of leading the elephant family into the 2024 elections. Samuel Kucho-Brace of our political desk has more.
I want to be president so I can bless the people of God. And I will pray that God will bless me so that I can bless them.
As the ruling New Patriotic Party gears up for its Special Delegate Congress, former Railways Development Minister Joe Gate is intensifying his campaign to lead the party into the 2024 general elections. He says he is confident of being part of the last 5 to head towards the main Delegates Congress.
But be rest assured that God willing, I said be rest assured as God willing, as long as the sun rises and the sun sets, when we vote for the Special Delegates Congress, Joe Gate will be among the first 5.
During his tenure as a railways minister, he played a pivotal role in the construction of the railway line from Tema to Mpakadan featuring a steel bridge over the Volta Lake, enhancing connectivity and trade opportunities for the nation. He says his background has equipped him with a deep understanding of the country's developmental needs.
In fact, everything that I've seen, everything that happened when I traveled for the past 5 days, everything that has happened to me since I joined this party in 1992 and set the party has convinced me beyond reasonable doubt that I am prepared for this time, a time such as this, where we need a man such as me to rule the country and bring blessings to God.
He believes his extensive experience and strong track record make him a compelling choice to represent the MPP in the 2024 general elections and serving as a source of inspiration for millions around the world.
I'm going to spend my time thinking about the fact that a teacher's son from nowhere has become president. I'm going to spend my time thinking about the hope it will give to people, to millions of people, millions of Ghanaians who come from homes such as mine. Somebody whose father died when he was 6 can have the audacity of hope. Without education, where would I be? I'll think about how somebody has been through public service for so long. I'll think about how God has prepared me for the occasion. I'm ready to go. I'm totally ready to go. That is what I think about every day, not about another thing.
With a focus on inclusive policies and developmental strategies, he envisions a future where every Ghanaian can benefit from the nation's growth and progress.
We will transform this nation. We together will transform this nation. We shall take this nation to the next level. Amen. Everything that my hand has touched, by God's grace, has been blessed. Amen.
As someone with experience in the MPP flag bearership race, the ECOWAS 10 legislator has a message for the delegates.
The message to the delegates is that their candidate is Jogati. I'll be coming to them. I've gone to some of them. I'll be coming to each of them. And I want to assure them that by the time they finish listening to me, they'll come to the conclusion that there's one candidate, and his name is Jogati.
Jogati's bid to become the MPP's flag bearer is not merely a personal aspiration, but a commitment to serve his party and his country with renewed vigor. As the nation watches this process unfold, the question remains, will Jogati be the one to lead the MPP into the 2024 general elections and potentially become Ghana's next president? For Joy News, I am Samuel Kojo-Brace.
And you can't disrespect me and expect me to join your campaign, words of the Deputy Railway Development Minister, Akuffo-Addo, to the camp of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as he expresses his dissatisfaction at how some of the members of the camp blatantly stabbed him during a campaign to visit some constituencies in the Asante-Achim area. The Member of Parliament for the Asante-Achim South constituency says he is hurt by the actions of Bawumia's camp, who saw him as an outlier. He has thus announced his loyalty to former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kojo-Jerman, describing him as a brother. Emmanuel Bright Kweku has been following the Adrosu campaign tour in the Ashanti region and filed this report.
Rousing welcome by delegates and pro-Alan supporters as the former trades minister began his tour in the region, paying a courtesy call on the paramount chief of Adrosu, where he hails from. Nana Afrani Okese IV blessed the flag bearer hopeful, throwing a challenge to his detractors over Mr. Chomanting's victory in the upcoming party elections. I know it shall work. Even the detractors know it shall work. I'm solidly behind him in everything. The gods are behind him. You can bet over this. The team proceeded to constituencies in the Asante-Achim area to solicit support, with some government officials throwing their weight behind the former minister. Deputy Railway Development Minister Kweku Asante-Boateng announced his vehement support after he claimed to have been dejected by the Bawumia camp. When Vice President Bawumia came to Sankari, we decided to go welcome him and some members of his team. None of them greeted me when I extended a handshake. You can't disrespect me and expect me to join your campaign. I am hurt by their actions. Alan is my brother. I cannot denounce him. If he wins or not, I will support him. The group headed to the constituencies in the Kumewu area and made a final stop at Ejuso. Mr. Chairman touted his achievement to the delegates, indicating that he is the man to wield more votes from the Ashanti and Volta regions to aid a landslide win in the upcoming general elections.
Volta region, I don't think you'll be NDC. Volta region. Now what NDC force about Volta region?
The NDC has more voters in the Volta region. Vote for someone who can reduce their numbers there. Jerry Rawlings has been the favorite of the Voltarians, but they told me I am their new favorite after Rawlings died.
Anyone godfather. Jerry Rawlings on you with you. Volta for say. Shall Rawlings require?
On the first day, the former minister visited 8 out of the 47 constituencies and is expected to complete his tour in the Ashanti region within 6 days. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
And 35-year-old alleged fugitive and pedophile is standing trial at the Wasagate court over 11 counts of sexually assaulting 12 minors. The accused, who is a popular master of ceremony for Islamic marriages, is alleged to have committed the act at his house and in the bush and gave the 10 Ghana cedis with a promise of giving them opportunity to dance in public whenever he is doing his MC duties for weddings. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam has more.
It is a case of public interest, and residents of Wa thronged and flooded the forecourt of the Wa Circuit Court, spilling into the streets few times, blocking vehicular traffic. 35-year-old popular local master of ceremony for weddings, Rashid Ahmed, better known by his fans as Anata, faces 11 counts of sexual assault at the Wa Circuit Court. His victims, ages ranges between 10 and 15 years. The alleged sexual assault read at the court took place between 2021 and 2023. Wearing blue-black Muslim prayer gown over multicolored slippers, he was handcuffed at the back, sandwiched by uniformed and plainclothes policemen and taken to the court. He was motionless, wore a frown, and clattered his teeth as the facts of all 11 counts were read to him. Anata denied the offenses during investigation and his caution statement. Most of the alleged sexual assault took place at his house at Adabia, a suburb of Wa, and the rest in a bush where they leaned on his motorbike for the amorous and beastly act. In most of the cases, the accused gave his victim 10 Ghana cedis and a promise of giving opportunity to dance at marriage ceremonies where he will serve as the master of ceremony. Principal State Attorney at the Attorney General's Department, lawyer Said Abdul Shakur, who was leading the prosecution, prayed to the court for the accused to be remanded into police custody to enable them finish with their investigation. Lawyer Said Abdul Shakur also told the court, because of the charged atmosphere outside the court, coupled with the public interest in the case, the accused should be kept behind bars for his own safety.
He is a flight risk. Somebody who has left the jurisdiction before, we cannot be sure he will not escape. Considering the gravity of the offenses and the punishment that is likely to be meted out if he is convicted, we are talking about a minimum of 8 years and a maximum of 25 years for each of the counts. If we succeed in our case, he might be going in for a long time. So if the court allow him on bail, we might be left holding the cheeky end of the stick. We might not get him to trial. And we also say that it is in his own interest, because the anger, you can gauge the anger in society. You can reach out to it. You can see that people are hungry. For over 15 years of practice as a lawyer here, I've never seen this number of persons in court before. And this is the first time I've seen almost the entire society at court. If such a person is turned loose, we might not even get him to try, because people might take the law into their own hands.
The presiding judge, His Honor Jonathan Abugo, granted the wish of the prosecutors and remanded the accused into police custody and to reappear Monday, 4th of August.
And that's all we have for you in this package of the polls. I am Blessed Sugan. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have stories there for you, including the story relating to the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, where the NDC is threatening and asking for his resignation, else they'll march to the headquarters of the BOG in 21 days. Thanks for your time. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Thanks for watching.